Welcome to Business Cake. This is a show for people like you who are building their ideas. We've got a great conversation for you today. This is our third round of recapping, where we spotlight 4 of our previous guests. We give a thumbnail sketch of some of the stuff that stood out to us. And so if you hear something that strikes your fancy, go and check out these full interviews. We're talking about Sandeep Misra, Josh Schairbaum, Elizabeth Yarbrough, and Danielle Laughlin. So if you don't know where to start here. You get a sketch of 4 different guests as we celebrate their stories and what each of them are building. I'm thrilled that for this recap, we're joined by the Segway King himself, Andrew Rahrig. Andrew's an entrepreneur and runs a cocktail company out of Tampa, Florida called Nightcap Social. His wife is also an entrepreneur, a builder, and runs an interior decorating company called Freshly Minted Living. So Andrew shares his perspective both as a builder and as a champion of his wife, who's a builder. And they do all of this together while raising 2 beautiful kids. We'll weave in and out of their story as we recap. So regardless of the phase you find yourself in, whether you are imagining what you want to build or iterating on that idea, you're going to pick up tips and inspiration in this conversation. You're going to get a bite of cake that you want to chew on. So let's dive in.
My name's Andrew. I live in Tampa, Florida. We own 2 small businesses. My wife owns a company called Freshly Minted Living. I own a cocktail company called Nightcap Social. And then I work this thing called a day job. So I work in fuel for Marathon Petroleum, and I love it. People often ask me, are you going to quit your day job, to do the side hustles, to do the small businesses? And I love my day job. So that's not really in my vision. So it's been cool to listen along to some of your podcasts. I think the one thing I'd say about Business Cake is you guys have had some unbelievable and fascinating guests on. So it's very exciting for me to be on this recap episode and, pull out and pull in, some of the things that I found interesting. And really, a lot of it has just kind of encouraged me to think differently about my small businesses as well. So really cool.
Awesome.
But that's a little bit about me. Anything else you guys want to know?
Well, you're an interesting person, and we don't just grab anybody to add to the list of guests. And not only are you a good friend, Andrew, but you also, like you said, have businesses, but then you've given us really good, challenging feedback as we've been on this podcasting journey. And you didn't really sugarcoat it, which is nice because a lot of people be like, hey, I heard your podcast, sounds great. And I appreciate that. But then you're like, hey, when you do this is dumb. This sucks. You need to stop doing that.
Did I
you need to do this
that?
other thing. Oh yeah. You didn't mince words.
No, you know what? When somebody asks for feedback and it's like genuine, they want feedback, like I'm willing to give it.
That's awesome.
And I do think it helps when people give freely in the feedback scenario. So like if you warning to anybody out there asking for feedback, I'm gonna type it up.
It's good feedback, man. We did want to grow, and I think it was really helpful that you jumped in there and did that. So
yeah, if Andrew's giving you feedback, bring your own sugar.
Yeah, I will not sugarcoat.
It won't be pre-sugared. But it was constructive, and it was very helpful.
So I got a question for you, since you're in the cocktail world.
Yeah.
If we're cocktails, what are we?
Oh my. Ooh. This is a question I did not expect.
Yes.
All right. Ooh, I like Patrick. I'll start with Patrick.
Okay.
I feel like Patrick is a penicillin. So that's a Scotch-based cocktail because I think you have a love for Scotch. And not only do you have a love for like a malt, but you also get a little smoky topped off. So it's Scotch, lemon, honey, and ginger. You get some bite in there. You're passionate. You get some citrus in there, and then it's topped with an Islay, a Lafroig, or a smoky peaty Scotch. So really fun cocktail that I think
I've never had it, but that sounds perfect. I'll take it.
You should order it. All right, and Will. I could go a couple directions
Naked
with
and
this.
famous.
Naked and famous,
You know
baby.
what? I know there's a cocktail out there, and I'm kind of disappointed for not knowing. I think it's called Last Ward, like WARD. But it's a last word, which is gin, Luxardo, liqueur, green chartreuse, and lime. But it's made with mezcal. So that's
There we
that
go.
last word. But it a last word in general, I think would fit you. Like you're very cautious in kind of how you articulate things. You think it through first, and then you have this last word. But it's spicy, it's herbaceous, it's really deep and great. So I think you'd be a last word or a last ward if you want to pull in that mezcal.
So I love it.
That was cheers.
Yeah, I hear.
Well
Cheers.
articulated right off the glass.
Absolutely, I love it. Thanks for good question. I did not expect that question. That was good.
Well, we didn't send that one to you, but it occurred to me. We're also trying something new on this episode where Will and I are sitting in the same room, and we're typically not.
Yeah.
And we're smoking cigars outside, which we're typically not.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
drinking mezcal and.
This is actually a Drambuie.
Oh, nice. That's a
Just
good
straight
liqueur,
Drambuie. Wow.
which we're typically not. So, Andrew, you're getting the best of all the worlds.
I do like this. I like seeing y'all, and I'm looking forward to this episode.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the recap pods are, we go back and we just touch on 4 of our guests. And we do this for a couple of reasons, but I think one of them is to celebrate the stories of the guests. And so like when in building your own small business, I think one of the things that comes up a lot is being alone, the community aspect. People call it, the solopreneur, because you feel like you are out there just kind of drifting it on your own. And I think building an idea is like that. And so we want to cultivate the conversations around that, but then also like shine a light and say this person's story and what they're doing and the work they're doing. It's hard, it's good, there's like good stuff in here, and like keep going. So that's part of it. The other part is it's easy to brush by those, and there's some hidden gems in there, and we want to be able to pull those out. And so if somebody this is a great approach into the podcast. If they're like, I want to get just a quick hit, what is Business Cake about? Here's an episode where you can get four guests in one, but then with Andrew, it's like
Bonus.
spotlight at 5. Yeah, it's a bonus guest. So this gives a full taste, a lot of the different content we cover. So it's been a fun thing that we've implemented. So with that, today we're diving into Josh Schairbaum, Sandeep Misra, Elizabeth Yarbrough, and Danielle Laughlin. And each of
Awesome.
those we'll kind of give a quick short bio at each point, snapshot when we dive into them. I'll help move the conversation along, frame it up. Andrew, you've listened to each of them. You've taken notes and takeaways, and hopefully, hey, this makes me think of, like we'll branch out into any direction that we want. But
which one do you want to hit first?
I think let's start with Josh. So Josh Schairbaum and I met at Rackspace. That's where, and so we both come out of the Rackspace technology background and world. Josh still works in tech and does solution engineering and architecting for a company called NLX, where they work with AI and conversational bots and things. So he is steeped into technology, artificial intelligence. It's his day job, but we mostly talked to him about his hobbies and the things he was working on outside of that, and how has he used AI for his own personal life. And it was a fun conversation. It was vulnerable. There were a couple of times where I remember him just like opening up.
Oh yeah.
But so that's the quick snapshot of Josh. So Andrew, I'm gonna throw it to you. Just you can go rapid fire on some takeaways. We can dive in, or you can just pull one out and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So you know what I think. and I have like some commonalities and differences for each of these, and I hopefully can kind of pull out some of them. But with Josh, like, I characterize every one of these episodes, and the really the people, I characterize them. And like, so for Josh, like, hobbies are sexy, even wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm not personally into wrestling, but his passion and his joy about kind of pursuing this story was incredible to me. So like, how he articulated, how he was using tools to kind of create this thing. And it was truly kind of really cool to see him kind of pursue that hobby with tenacity. I don't think we all pursue hobbies tenaciously, but
Mhm.
I do think, and I've said this for years, that hobbies are sexy. Like, it makes a person interesting when they have something to kind of talk about outside of their work or their business. And sometimes hobbies make money as well, and can be a business, and there's some good overlap, but they don't have to. So that was something that's like really stood out for me with like Josh, is how he has this hobby, and it was really cool. And I think he really does a good job of you know being curious, but also like satisfying curiosity. There's a book, and maybe I've mentioned it to you guys before, but A Curious Mind, Brian Grazer, and he talks about how curiosity is kind of a suppressed quality in society. Kid asks, "Why is the sky blue?" And you just tell them, "I don't know," and then you move
Right.
on. Or a kid in math class asks about something not related to math, and they're like, "We're not talking about that right now." And so kids, despite being honestly curious, kind of just kind of fit into the fold and move on. Josh does a really good job of being curious about something and then like pursuing his
Yeah.
curiosity, and he did it a lot through AI and how he spoke about AI. So those are two things that like really were really cool, and kind of how he approached different things. But yeah.
Yeah, and he said, he encouraged everybody to look at the tools that they use in their job and find out how those can fit into your personal life, like to leverage those for your hobbies or for whatever it might be. But
Yeah.
use the curiosity around something as silly or simple as Microsoft Excel, or something as robust and jagged frontier as AI could be. And that's really, for him, one of the messages that he brought. But then also, it kind of saved his life in a way,
Yeah.
because
No,
he was
for sure.
going through such a turbulent time emotionally. And then these little figures, it's kind of like Josh could
Yeah.
be a movie, like just his story of like going through tech, and then it builds into the wrestling world. And when he talked about those people, the wrestlers, like he knows their stories and their faces and everything so well. It's like his hobby
Yes.
is it's
Well,
big.
that was one of the things he had said, was he was tired and maybe somewhat cynical, bitter. I forget the word he used, but about the heroes that we have today. It's like people, there aren't a lot of good examples where you're like, man, this leader, this person, and they're making a hard decision, but it's the right decision, and you can celebrate that and kind of emulate that. And so
I mean,
in
basically
that
said
failure,
all people will
yeah.
eventually disappoint you at
And
some
Yeah.
so he went and created these stories and these heroes who are facing hard things, but who make good decisions, I guess, or
Well,
like
and all movies and stories do that,
wholesome.
right? Like that's what's fun about him, is like it gives us that.
Yeah.
But then to create, and the other cool thing that he did with this is he didn't just create it as like, here's some cool wrestlers and they have a wrestling thing, but he found a point in U.S. history, geographical location, where it could fit,
Yeah.
and not. It was almost like somebody just forgot to record what happened, and so he did, And so the way that he was he took it so seriously,
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting is like, I found it interesting. I'll kick it off to you guys, but like one of the things is like he almost, as much as he like loves AI and what it can do for you, how it can, his pursuit was like time savings. He's like, I'm not using it to produce revenue, or in some instances, but it was like, just spend more time with your kids, use AI,
Right.
to spend more time. Like, I thought that was really cool, but he also offered like a lot of warning around AI. So then he places his wrestlers in like this era that in some ways avoided some of the pitfalls of technology that we have today, which I thought was kind of
What
cool.
were and on the areas of caution that he had, or like what was a takeaway for you that you heard?
Yeah, I think one takeaway, and I'll go into that, is like he kept saying, he's like, we're so worried about how AI will replace us that we don't jump in and look for AI to help us, to enhance us, basically, or to work for us, kind of thing. So that I found was like a really good statement, is like, separate that. And it's like there's so many people, like your mom, your parents, your aunts and uncles, like they were like anti-internet, anti-Facebook. And now they're like obsessed with Facebook. They can't resist sharing that one.
Can't quit it.
That one thing. They can't quit it. But and then business leaders today, I think, it's like, well, I don't understand social media, so we're not gonna use it, kind of thing. So we need to embrace AI in the same way. And I'm kind of mid-career, halfway through, and I need to embrace it. Like, or I'm at risk of becoming the people that said, I don't think our company should pursue Facebook or Instagram, and
Right.
have those impressions. But I think the warning to me is like, you know, how you interact with it. You told it, be kind to it, and treat it in a way that's respectful. And then just your information, what you upload to it, it's kind of theirs too, and it's going to potentially get shared. So that to me is like the two precautions I had. But I took more encouragement of, I need to have a relationship with AI more than what I do today, which is playfully use ChatGPT every once in a while. So
yeah, I liked what he said, that it's a jagged frontier, that it is good in some things, but it's lacking in others. And so we can't expect it to just take over. Like, you need to engage where it's good, and then where it's not, like, you're going to have to step in and fill in. It's a partner, not a replacement. And then I like the way that he used it to reflect on his own life. So he had it where he uploaded some of his thoughts and his goals, and then he'd go back and say, these are the things that I'm doing. How does this align? And then, it would say, well, these are the patterns that we see. So I thought that was really interesting, because, it doesn't replace human mentorship or human coaching or business consulting or whatever that is, but it could cover more ground. Or, and he talked about being convergent and divergent in the information too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing I loved about Josh is just like him as a person. Like, he's so smart and he's built so much with this, but then he's just like, you can't not love the guy.
Yeah.
He's just got this magnetic quality that, he's pouring out his heart about wrestling, but then, and you could almost write it off, but you can't, because it's so genuine and authentic, and it just draws you in. And that was the first time I've ever met him. And by the end, I was like, you want to go on a vacation somewhere together? Like, let's just take a week and hang out. I'm ready.
Yeah, I got a feeling like even the stuff where he said he like used AI to create the characters in his kid's head so that they could color pictures. Like, to me, that like he expanded my view of how I could even think about or use AI. So really impressionant, and he was very joyful and passionate, along the way. So that was pretty cool to see him interact around some of that stuff, and how he used AI to bring joy, kind of thing. So.
Agreed. We love you, Josh. It was awesome. We'll have you back on. We'll have him back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It's done. It's live.
Come on back.
It's on record. Okay. Any other call outs that you would have, Andrew, on that for Josh?
My only other thing is, you said something like really important, which is that Venn diagram of, and I think it's a common thing. I'm not sure, but he talked about do something you love.
Yes.
Do something you're good at, and do something somebody's willing to pay you for. Like that's the intersection of like some really cool stuff. And I think it was Elizabeth that kind of found that, it felt like, in her podcast. And I don't know if you want to talk there next or if you want to go in a different order, but
let's the model, it was like, it's the Japanese what is it called?
yeah, I know. I like, I've heard this before, but I don't know, it's
Ikigai, I think, is something. Oh my gosh.
Come on, get it. We obviously didn't take copious notes.
This is live.
Dude, you're
no messing up.
Igari? Igisaria.
No. Ikigai. Look, it's this right here.
Oh, there it is.
Ikigai, and we can drop a note when we post this. But it's the passion, profession, vocation, and mission.
Yeah.
What are you good at? What can you be paid for?
What the world needs.
What the world
that's
needs.
The other part.
And what you love.
Yeah.
And when those combine, then that's your Ikigai. That's
each
how
one
you
of those
pronounce
sectors just takes so much attention and work, and some people stumble on one they just know what they love, or some people stumble on what the world needs or something. But in order to get there, it's awesome when you get there and you're right in like the nucleus of who you are and all this, but it takes probably longer than we'd want it to.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a discovery process. And, I guess, I'm going to hop into Elizabeth. Is that okay? Can we do that?
Hop into Elizabeth, and we can go back if anything. But
okay, so he kind of outlined that intersection of those things, and it's something that I felt like when Elizabeth talked about kind of what she was doing with Untangled, and she talked about like finding the magic, distill it, and then articulate the magic. Like, and she moved on from something that wasn't magical for her. And I think at one point she said something along the lines of like, I don't care what size my company is. Like when I'm older, when I look back, and it's like, I really don't, like, as long as it provided the lifestyle that I was looking for. So like in my eyes, like she kind of found a really nice balance. And it was very much in contrast to Sandeep, who was like, I need a big fulfilling idea and something that has high value. And like, that's what kept him passionate about, so it was really cool to kind of see their contrasting looks. But to me, it was like, just felt like she had a lot of like satisfaction and, finding the magic and like this, I'm working in what I love, which is a rare thing for a lot of people.
And it's a great call and a beautiful segue. Andrew is like the segue master,
segue king
of all the different conferences that we've been at where Andrew is moderating.
You're like Job. You're the segue king.
Segue.
Yeah, Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the biblical Job, not that one. But you could
Job.
be like him too, Andrew. The in the best of ways. I don't know.
Keep going.
Andrew's the segue king. The one of the things, it's as you're talking about Elizabeth drawing that out, right? Finding the magic, being able to articulate that, and then you scale it. It just reminds me of some of the conversations we've had about Nightcap Social.
Yeah.
And like at different points, you're talking about, how do I scale this? Like, what is that? Like, is this kind of a franchise model? Does it not need to be that? Like, what's the way that this could replicate? Did you think about that at all through that?
Yeah, and maybe that's why like I liked that podcast so much, because it is very much how I think about Nightcap is like, it's like if it scales, great. If it doesn't, great. I've had a blast, and I do still want it to grow. And you guys, this podcast and the last 4 episodes that I just listened to, I mean, were very encouraging for me to like keep after it, But what I think is like, really cool about like how she just framed it up. Like you do need to find a person talented enough to do this thing, and then to expand it well, right? And that's where, you know, it's we're not just a cocktail company that goes to weddings, and you know, we legitimately tell stories and, you know, frame up the cocktails similar to how we talked about cocktails on the top of this episode. So it takes a special person to be able to do that, and finding that is careful, and sifting through some of the talent to be able to do that and want to serve cocktails is really cool. So that's where it kind of, we had a lot of commonality. And then probably the thing we have the most in common is we both brand everything. So Elizabeth, it's not a snow cone, it's a snowball.
It's a snowball.
Right?
Exactly.
She also would, I think at one point, one of you guys caught yourself saying manual. She's like, it's a playbook, It's like, to me, like, that is so cool to, like, your vocabulary reflects
words matter. Yeah.
your culture of your business.
Yep.
And she's created ways to frame things. She sells her company based on how she has branded multiple elements of what she does. And my concept is a master class in this experience called a show and tell. And I have the same 10 things I say kind of all the time. It's like every cocktail has a story, and all these things that are just like, oh, it's like, I mean, Chick-fil-A retrained everyone to say my pleasure. Like, because they were so ingrained in saying, their employees had to say my pleasure, that now every fast food restaurant, fast casual, everybody says my pleasure, So that to me is like really cool. But yeah, definitely a lot of overlap in terms of how we approach things.
With that, because I think there's such a balance of being too anal probably about some stuff, and like nitpicking all the different words, but then also knowing, well, snowball is actually a differentiator for us.
Yeah.
Because of the type of ice it is, as compared to like a snow cone, right? So that's one thing, like knowing which thing to focus on. I think the other, because the same thing with the playbooks, right? Playbooks are so important to what she does and drawing up to help a business be successful and to scale, that it needs to be a playbook as opposed to like a manual. The first thing I think about is a car, and I have never read a car manual. Like that is
I thought you meant like a manual stick shift.
A manual? I went to high school with him.
Okay, so anyways, the playbook.
No, you're right on. Like, it is a cornerstone of that, because every company has a manual, but this company has a playbook. It's like automatic. It's already cooler. It's already better than reading and training your person on a manual. So I really like how she weaved in that type of stuff.
So, and Elizabeth started with the retro snow, selling the snowballs. She then moved to the Untangled, the business, what you mentioned, and like creating those playbooks and working with business leaders. And so we dove into those things. She, I think, was great at stepping in when somebody wants to scale and sitting down. So it might be
the inflection point.
That inflection point, Andrew. Maybe
you're right.
Maybe you need to set up some time with Elizabeth.
I probably do.
See what the magic is.
She might say it's too early because that she waits for the right moment in the business. Because if you try to do it too early, you're just taking on more work that
maybe it's like she's not too early.
But maybe it's not, but it is too early. But maybe it's not. You should talk to Elizabeth, but it probably is. But it may not be. But the inflection point for her is important because she's not just looking for work. She's not just looking for a job. She actually knows that she can create such a good value for you in your company that she's going to wait for you until it's the right time.
Right.
And I think some of the challenge for people is reaching out when they need help, because it could be too early, or it's like by the time they're swamped and they're in over their heads, they almost are like, look, I don't have time for this. But the truth is, if you don't have time for it, you're just going to sink. You have to build that. So I'm not Elizabeth, so I can't tell you it's too early or too late.
But just to further anchor on my point that Andrew can talk to her. Well, I
Elizabeth, if you're out there, I'm just kidding.
You're listening to this.
No, we're going to take it
right
over
now.
under. I'm saying it's too early. Will says it's the right time.
I'm saying it's the right time to talk to her. I'm not necessarily saying she's going to say, "Hey, you're ready."
Okay.
But I'm saying it's the right time to talk to her because she can probably help calibrate that and say, actually, yeah, you are ready. Here's some stuff we can do. Or it is too early and I don't want to waste your money. And so
you're both right.
That's fair. We can't.
Do you feel like I backtracked on that?
You kind of did a little bit because you said it's the right time, and then you're like, "Oh, it's the right time to talk to her." Like, let me qualify, which is fine. It's a free country. You should talk to her, Andrew.
Yeah. I feel like that since this podcast, you guys are in the same room. The chemistry's a little different.
We can't replicate that.
Where's the magic?
Oh no, the magic is here. I'm saying the magic is more.
That's good. What else? Anything else on with Elizabeth? Anything that she?
I think it's really cool that we started talking about her with finding the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right way to say that?
It's not the right pronunciation, but
I didn't realize that at the time, Andrew. I think that's a really cool insight that you pulled out. It's like, you know what? You're probably right. Like she is doing something that she loves. She's getting paid for it. The world needs it. And the fourth thing is also
you can make money on it.
I said she's getting paid.
the missional purpose or something.
Yeah, the purpose, right?
Well, Josh,
what you're good at, what you love, what you paid for, what the world needs. Yeah, all of those four things are true for her. So that's kind of I think that is such a major compliment to somebody, to be able to say that to them.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, if you didn't think that, that's some outside feedback for her.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
All right.
I think another thing that, and can I segue again? Can I get back to that segue?
Segue.
Where are we going?
Master.
What's the next one?
Let's hop on.
So, in some ways, and I thought about this, and I listened to Danielle first, and then Elizabeth. Elizabeth kind of drew out this thing where people they don't even know if they have a good product yet, and they're doing all this work that they don't even know if they have a good service. And then you have kind of Danielle. It's really instrumental in getting businesses off on the right foot, protecting themselves, liability, all these things. And I find that in small business, myself included, you either have a great service and you never, step off the bike to inspect, is the bike working well? You never get off and say, hey, I need Elizabeth to come in and write this, or I need, Danielle to come in and help me, true this up. From a small business perspective, it's you either are that where you're I'm a founder, I'm operating, I'm operational, I can do everything from soup to nuts. I'm the one who's making this run. And then the other side of it is you see a lot of small business people with aspirations to have small business, and in some ways they spend $4,000 on branding. They spent $2,000 on attorneys. They bought real estate, and then they don't even know if their product works, right? And there's something that needs to happen in between those phases. And you shared about it. It's the right thing at the right time, right? And I think that is a really hard struggle for small businesses. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's perfect. But if you have a vision and you're a small business owner, it's you really got to kind of analyze of you got to step off and take a different look at your business and say, I need Elizabeth, or I need Danielle to help write some agreements. So tell us what Danielle does before I hop too far into.
Well, I will, but before, I think that is just a great point and a great observation. Segue King.
Yeah. That's me.
Where you, and I think gets to the fact where a lot of business owners are building alone. So one is realizing that you can reach out, you can ask for help. Two is who can I reach out to, and how do I get connected with them at that point? But that can be an accelerator, like if finding the right person to talk to at that time to help clarify your processes, know what the magic is for you so that you can get that down, document it in a playbook and run and not have to think about it is huge. Doing that in the right way, like with what Danielle does. And so Danielle runs a law firm called Sage Business Counsel. And it's just cool because her mission, her purpose is to eliminate entrepreneurial poverty.
That was an awesome phrase.
Yeah. And that's her drive. And so that's awesome that's her foundation. But it came out of the work with her dad, with the clients that she had who didn't necessarily build in the right way or know how to build well. And then that came back to bite them. And she's like, I can help small business owners shore up these areas so that they can just focus on building their idea, building their company, and they're like protected or they've got these things in place. And it's her story was incredible as well. But go. What was a takeaway, Andrew?
For Danielle, a couple of takeaways. I think the most potent takeaway, and she talked a lot about bankruptcy, kind of founding, the why and the reason, and many other things too. But kind of avoiding the financial pitfalls, basically, is like protecting yourself as you start a business. She said, and there's a famous, I think Bernie Mac and Charles Barkley are on Oprah. It's very funny, and it's like a funny clip. And Charles Barkley is like, yeah, when I, became a professional athlete, I have people calling me up. He's like, you got to pay for this and that. And he's like, one guy called me up and he said, I'm 8 months behind. I said, man, you should have called me when you were 1 month behind. And that, it's very funny to me, but it is true. And so Danielle said something along the lines of like, if you know something needs fixed, fix it. Like, get the people involved, make it happen. And small business owners, we're busy operating. We're busy doing the things that we think are producing. And, they are producing, but you have kind of this thing that's hiding in the shadows that is not right, that you need to make right. So that stood out to me as like something that came from how she helps small businesses of like fix what you got going on, and then you can build the product, build the service, whatever you kind of end up doing. So it was very sage counsel, if I might say.
It's aptly named.
Aptly named. In the stage of building an idea, which you've done, Rachel, your wife, is doing.
Yeah.
And looking at that, like, what would you do differently? Or maybe like with what you're talking about, what would you add in the current process, like with Rachel?
Oh man, I feel like we're doing it a lot better for Rachel's business. It's kind of in formation now. And and I think her business has a very high ceiling, and she does like interior styling. It's kind of niche. It's very fun. It's not interior design. It's not contractors and construction and redoing cabinets or anything like that. But it's styling your home. It's helping kind of buy anything up to furniture, and so it's really fun what she is doing. And putting the safeguards in place, like I think that has been beneficial and helpful. I guess I go back to like I'm a bit risk adverse. So had I done in my first business, actually started under a different name, but we transitioned to a name in a place where we needed to expand. Like it's like some of these things are like I had this really successful really fun thing. And I did like 60, K in revenue as a side business my very first year. And it was like very fun, but it was very busy. And that's, I know, peanuts to many of the people listening and the callers, but as something that only happens on Fridays and Saturday nights, it was really cool. It was really fun to see. But I didn't necessarily like think through, scaling in the early going. It's like if I set this up to scale from day one, it would look a lot different. So I think it's probably important to sit down as a founder, owner, operator, sit down and like have other people give you inputs. Surround yourself with people that have done it before. I didn't necessarily do that. It was COVID as well. So I was starting a business in COVID, and my wife was 4 months pregnant. I wouldn't recommend a lot of the things that I did
What's one of the
necessarily.
things that you would tell yourself if you were on that team of people advising Andrew as he launches out?
Um, I would say get all my taxes. You helped do some of that financial planning side of things in the early going. I didn't have that from day one. I should have. Like I needed I needed income statements day one, instead of, and like I knew it was making money, like I knew it, but I wanted ease of having stuff done, and instead I had spreadsheets and I did all these things on my own out of fear that hey, this X amount is going to just like reduce my profit, and then it's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing stuff to pay stuff? Like I'm not making enough out of this. And so I think a lot of small businesses kind of struggle with that. But I do think financial, you know, peace comes when you foundationally set up the right services. And we're not I am not a lawyer. I am not an accountant. I am not, some of these things that are, people go to school for those. I'm
That's
an
practical.
entrepreneur,
Yeah.
I'm not any of those things. So
The
recognizing what I'm not, I would say is
That's cool.
something
I
that would
like
have
that.
benefited me.
the other thing that you alluded to is starting with the end in mind, like
Yeah.
building the thing, saying, "Hey, how do I build this now so that it could scale? Or if this becomes really successful, then what?" And I
Yeah.
think often it's like we're so focused on building the idea, getting that out and getting it started that we don't think about, well, what if this becomes successful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is an important step.
Yeah.
I learned that too over time. If you knew if it was successful at A, B, or C, like have a contingency plan for all of those different ones, by year 2, year 3, year 5, like what are you gonna do?
But, and if I may segue again, like Sandeep did that really well, and you guys processed that with him really well, where he talked about he had a brainstorming session where they were like throwing things at the wall of like, in some ways, like they would throw a business idea or a problem at the wall. Then they would say, "Hey, do we have a solution for it?" But like what you were just talking about is like, in some ways, like, did it align? Did it align with his vision? And like
Yeah.
that's where like if you plan with the end in mind and you, you grow, we just ignoring that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
just
we're just
gonna
ignore
we're just
that.
gonna keep going.
We'll
John will
ignore
cut it
that.
out.
I did a good job. But he really did a really good job of like saying, does this align with what I want in the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was and it takes time to like really distill down what you want out of your small business that could become a big business.
Yeah, and he's also somebody that in the middle of one of the jobs chose to walk away from it. It's the discomfort that was there and what he just
Yeah.
was like, this is not lining up with where I want to be. I'm going to walk away, which was a hard moment for him.
Yeah. He's
Well, I don't want to jump to him real quick.
Let's do it.
jump back to Danielle.
Let's jump back to Danielle,
Okay.
because one of the other
Jumping.
things that we've talked about is when something happens, you're either a victim of it. Like if something happens that's difficult or a challenge or whatever, right? You're either a victim of it or you can be a champion of it. And the way that she talked about being a single mother, going through school early on, like, dude, and like, I have no words, you know, it was amazing. Like she said, I had the privilege of being a single mother while I worked through this stuff. And it was like such an incredible statement, and the viewpoint and the, you know, the grit and grace that she has to walk through that and do a good job, like, and be a champion of that opportunity. Look at it like that.
Well, in her decision point of starting her own law firm, coming at a low point of being, it's like a few years into her law career, she's depressed. She's feeling all the weight and stress of being a single mom. And in that like furnace, then her way out was, I'm going to launch my own law firm, which is, I think, not the escape plan that a lot of people would think of. But for her, it was like, this is what I'm going to go do, because that is riskier and it's going to require more of you. And it's like, well, hold on. What are you talking about? You're going to do that? And she did. And that's such a courageous step to take. It was awesome to hear that in her story.
Yeah, that is something I drew out of hers, is like she was you know, in this very difficult place. And that's probably something entrepreneurs don't talk about a lot, is like, how low can low be when you're a business owner and having all the pressure that you have. And she took on an even bigger risk to, you know, kind of address some of the things that were impacting her. Like that to me is spoke volumes. Like I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. One of the things that she said was, just because you're building something big doesn't mean you should suffer to do it. And the balance of work and life and doing it well on the front end, I think it's impressive. Danielle, you're awesome.
Don't be a martyr just because you're an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Yeah.
That I just said that.
Oh, that's a Will quote?
Yeah, that's a Will quote. We can
on the recap of the recap pod, we'll bring that up and be like, what did Will say? That was awesome.
This is good. Yeah, thanks. Man. Segue King. Okay.
Yeah.
Sandeep Misra.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, that's a terrible segue.
I'm not the segue king. I was like throwing a line out to Andrew to see. Well, the Sandeep and I also met.
So you want me to give the segue?
Dude, please.
The segue.
My
so
gosh.
you got Danielle, you know, and she talked openly and was really incredible to hear her story. You know, single mother, you know, kind of in this moment, and then creates this business. Sandeep, like the start of his podcast was about, you know, coming to the US at age 16, really having nobody, like nothing was given to him, and like he didn't expect it. And even when you know, I think, let me see here. Yeah, he's like, he called out like working for his family, the betterment of his family. You know, that was really cool perspective. But neither one of them had kind of this foundation of like, oh, this is a great way to start a business. But, you know, here they are. They've persevered and gone through a lot. So that's how I would kind of tie those two together. But, you know, I do think it's probably worth for those listening that may want to go back and listen to Sandeep to hear his story more.
Nailed it. Sandeep and I met at Rackspace, and so the technology, you know, kind of tied us. But I think doing work that matters and that means something, but then also with people, doing work with people that you enjoy working with, were probably two things early on that we connected on. And then I think his venture startup and what they're doing there is high impact, as they look at like both holistic treatment of diabetes, but then also preventative care for that through their app Healed. But then his journey of getting there, like he went through several failures, you know, being fired at like a critical point early in his marriage. And it was what did he say about failure?
Oh, failure is the tuition you pay for innovation.
Patch is like, on it.
You got that memory. Good job.
I know. It's definitely not AI.
You have to think about failure differently because you're gonna have failure. And
right.
And if you
reframe how you look at it.
If you want to be successful, right? You want to get to the ikigai, or if you want to turn some idea into something that's real, whatever it is. Honestly, being a parent or whatever, like failure is just going to be, yes, welcome to life. That's it. And so if you feel like failure is the end, right? And a lot of people talk about this, like this, I don't think the idea is new, but I think what's cool about it with Sandeep is it's real to him.
Right.
Like he actually,
he had to walk through it.
Yeah. And again, like he was a champion, like he was victorious through those failures and turning it into something that's so innovative. Wow. That's not a word. Innovative. And the world needs it. Like the diabetes, people.
Diabetics.
They're going to kill. I'm sorry.
The diabetes people.
All right, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and he shared some of the numbers around it. There is a high need. But one thing that was like really cool is like he looked at outcomes via discomfort. So like that to me stood out in his podcast of like, yep, this route is hard and this route is hard. But what's the outcome? It's like, okay, is the hard worth the outcome? And reassess your outcomes and how hard it is, and then maybe pivot, right? So he really outlined that well, and I think that kind of is intertwined in his app and the mission for his app because whether and I believe it kind of targets kind of lifestyle and it just helps you kind of proactively allow yourself to be in position to beat diabetes, with and without medicine and some combination of. So really cool to see what he has going on and like how he's kind of even rolled it out in India and then here and then some of the intricacies of that I'm sure are more in depth, but I loved how he looked at outcomes of discomfort. Or out in the relationship between outcomes and the amount of discomfort you have to go through to get to that outcomes, because all of them have discomfort.
Right. Yeah, and stuff you have to push through. And he just thinks big.
Yeah.
Like he's saying, I don't want to do something that is small. Like I want to do something that is big, both in impact, but then also in what it can make and what he can earn. But he talked about legacy a lot.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And so the legacy he wanted to build.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
He
exactly.
wanted to impact lives, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this probably goes without saying, like if you listen to the podcast, like the man's got conviction. And I really like that resonates with me because I'm somebody who's, passionate and tenacious when it comes to the things I'm passionate about. But he, have conviction in what you're building. Like, how do you expect others to have conviction if you don't? And so he was very, when he was, I imagine him in a sales meeting. It is like conviction at the highest level, believing that your product is going to benefit this person and change that person's life. That was really cool to see that kind of come through on the podcast.
He helped me in that conversation when it came to raising funds and going and talking to investors. And we talked about fit, but it tied into the conviction piece because he says, this is your idea. And so if you are going and asking for somebody to put money into it, and then they start to say, well, I don't like this part about it. And you compromise and you say, okay, well, I'll change that. And like he said, no, like you're losing the whole conviction and you're compromising it and you're devaluing everything you're building. Like you just have to say, this is what we're going after. And the investors will buy into that or they won't. And you have to be okay with saying, okay, see you later to the investors that don't buy into that, and just have the conviction and say, this is what we're going to go build.
It's patience. You got to just be patient.
Yeah.
And cycle through them,
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. And, actually, Will, you've done that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It was okay. I'll be practical in my example. I'll be specific too.
Yeah,
and practical
about your investor people.
Well, we with our mezcal distillery, Etla, and rum distillery, we tried last year. Right before I left Rackspace, I was prepping it, and then as I left Rackspace, we started to have these conversations with investors, potential investors, saying, "This is what we're going to go build. This is what we're going to do." And it did not work. Like I was trying to get anybody and everybody and saying, okay, yeah, we can, maybe I can do this differently or I can do that differently, and trying to fit to whatever the person was talking to. And it was such a difficult and frustrating experience, I think, for both me and the investor, because then they're saying, do you even know what you're doing?
Well, you had several people say like, yeah, we're not interested. We're not doing pre-revenue. And other people were like, I sent it to my banker and they have 6 pages of why this is a bad idea, or, whatever the case may be. And it was just like,
so I said, okay,
no after no.
Scrap it.
Yeah.
We believe in this. We're going to go build this and bootstrap it.
So did you say you talked to Sandeep then?
No.
Okay.
On the podcast, when in that conversation, we had scrapped it. We said we were going to bootstrap. In that conversation, he talked about his approach. And it was a critical point for Maria and I, because we were like reaching the horizon of our like cash and capital and what we could invest into the business. And it was like some difficult decisions were coming up. And he said, find the fit, like keep the conviction, find the ones that fit. And you may have to talk to 60 people.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it just helped me reframe. And we went back in and didn't really change the business model at all.
No, we doubled down on it actually, because like you built the whole experience that night,
Yeah, we went back, we polished it.
Yeah.
We like called out a couple of things and refined it, and then just started talking to people and saying, this is what we're doing. We created this experience. We held like an investor night and talked to a lot of people out of that. And so since then, we started that in earnest in June. We've raised $200,000.
Let's go.
Love it.
And have committed investors into it. And there's a few conversations left to take place, but it's like, it was critical. Like you were talking about knowing how to reach out and ask for help. And I think I didn't know how to do that, but the conversation happened in a timely fashion to where it accelerated us.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love, kind of double downing and having conviction for where you're at and just honing in on it. Seth Godin writes a book, All Good Marketers Are Liars, and it's crossed out and it says storytellers. And I think, we lie to the public if we try to make our product everything for everyone. Or we can tell the story of the product and fit it into that person's worldview. And that, to me, I really like that book. Shout out to Seth. I don't know him, but if I did, I'd like to interview Seth. No, he writes a lot of good books, but we got to fit our products into somebody else's worldview. Like very few products shake up worldviews. Like Apple, iPhone, having a computer in your pocket changes your world, but in general, most of our products just fit into, it's like, oh, you're having a birthday party. You should have a cocktail night. It'll be special. It'll be fun. It'll be elegant. We fit our products into their worldview. And the product doesn't change. We just put it in their worldview in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah. It's a great, you're keeping the integrity of what you've built. You're just helping them know how it fits.
Yes. Yeah. But no, he was excellent in a lot of different ways, and really kind of enjoyed his story. And the conviction thing, like, man, you can't sell if you don't have conviction. If you don't believe in your product, I mean, that's biblical right there. If you like, it is so. If you're not authentically believing in your product, like, try selling that. Like, but you're not going to succeed.
That's the thing that talking to investors will beat into you, because even if you believe in it, but you're unsure about how they're going to react, or, some numbers about, or how, whatever, If they sense that, then they're probably out.
Mm-hmm.
And so after you get enough no's, it kind of builds that thick skin that you need to then say, all right, well, come hell or high water, this is who we are and this is what we're going to do.
Right.
You can join us or you can not, but this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I think a good consultant, a good strategist or marketer or whoever will help clearly define these things, because like, how do you package it in a way that is true to the product, but also helps it fit into their worldview? Because that's something that is a challenge, because you can't just say, hey, we're over here doing this thing and expect everyone to beat your door down, so you have to do the work to build that bridge to them, that in a way that doesn't compromise who you are, your identity, your product, etc.
100% agree. It's really cool to see like how you all have done that, even through like this podcast, and just the connections and relationships and the people you've had on is like very timely, and even the order in which I listened to them was really cool for me. Is like, okay, like setup, formation, avoid pitfalls. And then it was like scale to some degree, which I'm in this like place of like, do I have time to scale? Do I want to scale? Like, is that really like vetting my vision? And then you had somebody who's like, don't lose track of your hobbies. Use AI to save time. I'm somebody who's like, always feel like, I don't have time. I was like, all my hobby is pickleball. I've been known to play a little pickleball, but I want to play it all the time, and I don't have.
What was your pickleball nickname?
We didn't have to talk about that. we didn't have to talk about that.
We'll stick with the Segway King for on the pod.
Okay, all right. If people start calling me pickle sticks, I'll know they'll listen.
I'm gonna get
but then Sandeep is like, even if you have all this stuff, like this business formation set up, you have the ability to scale because you have kind of your playbook for scaling, and then you have like hobbies and passion and AI to take shortcuts. Like none of it happens without conviction, in my opinion. Like if you are not convinced that you are going to succeed, I think you're probably going to succeed as far as you think you will, which isn't very far if you have no conviction. So, all very, very good interviews, and you guys are great. You guys are the business cake.
Hey, well, I love that you are. That we made you listen to this to jump on the pod. No, I'm just kidding. You're building. You're actively building. You have built. You're in the process of it. Your wife is. And I think one of the things that we have had to, Patrick and I, get clear on is the conversations that we're having are for people who are building their ideas.
Yeah.
And being okay with this not fitting for other people. It's like, we are not journalists who are sitting down and like pulling out these narratives and saying, here's the theories for this stuff and here's the No, we're talking to people who are in the arena, building their ideas, who's got skin in the game, and we're in the same boat. And we want to have those conversations because they're helpful. It expands the community. It's like, if you're listening to this and you say, oh, I want to talk to that person about this, I didn't realize I needed that. Mm-hmm. That's what this is about. It's like, how do we get better at this and do it more effectively? You listening to them and then saying, I'm walking away from this feeling like I need to keep going. I can't quit. It's like a renewed vision. I feel like, man, that's such a big deal. And the funny thing is, like, these four people are so different. And even a lot of the advice or like, their mantras that they live by aren't necessarily, they don't all line up with each other, but like each person's story is their story. Yeah. And they've done a good job at building it. And so I think that's something that's important too for people, is like, if you're just always reading the latest books and listening to the coolest podcasts and trying to do everything that's out there, it's not going to work, And so some people are like, be prepared to work on the weekends. Other people are like, make sure you have time for your family. And it's like, okay, I mean, it's true. Some people are going to advise you one way or the other. And I think what's right for you. And where that balance is from, like, you're working all week, Friday nights, Saturday nights, you're gone. You're not with your family because you're doing Nightcap Social. And then at what point, when did that happen for you? We realized,
I don't like how much time I'm missing with my family. I need to change.
Yep. Yeah.
Did that happen?
That's exactly what happened, and we've had up to 5 bartenders with us. Now we have kind of one core other bartender that is right here in Tampa. So like we've expanded in some ways, and I'm trying to peel back more and more. And I know it works. Like I know the product works. I do have conviction for that. It's like what I don't have conviction is like, do I have what it takes to go as far as needed? And am I willing to sacrifice the
Right.
family stuff, the time and sleep that it takes to, build this? I'm likely I need somebody to like come on and say, hey, I'll general manage your business. Like you set the vision, I'll do the things.
Yeah.
That's what I probably need. But you're exactly right. And I think what all 4 of like your guests showcase was like their ability to articulate their vision and talk about it. Like you could tell they had things that they just kind of come back to that stir them
Right.
to keep going and to make this happen. Sandeep talked about like, I work for the betterment of my family kind of thing. And like, it's like, well, okay, he could do anything, it's like, if like, it doesn't matter the product. So I think they all had like this like shared thing where they really honed in on what they want in life.
Yeah.
And that's a process. It takes years, and they've done it really well. So I need to hone in on what do I want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then am I willing to do what it takes to get it there?
What do you need to do in order to figure that out?
Oh, probably stuff like this. I think, even listening to these 4 podcasts and like, I don't do it as often as I should. I'm more of the, you know, um, the type that like I literally just need to I'm so wrapped up in activity like I don't even know what it's like to not have an activity kind of thing, so I need to slow down to some degree to figure that out. But I also I like that about me. Like I'm ADHD and people are like, you should take medicine. I'm like, I like the way I am, like I'm fine. But I get that it impacts other people. And anyway, that's a
One of the
sidebar
things I
that
enjoyed
nobody
about you,
wanted.
Andrew,
But
is when you came in town one night, maybe earlier this year.
yeah, it was
We had
December.
some. Okay, so December. Yeah, I had a bar full of stuff. I didn't even know what I had because I was hosting people for Christmas, and so I made sure I had things like a Verno and I had chartreuse. I had plenty of that, and
Yeah.
then some other things. I'm not sure how you use them or what they're for, but I made sure I had it because people wanted it. But then you came in and you just saw it and you were like, yeah, we could make this, this, and this. If we had a little bit of this, we could do it. I also had some non-alcoholic rum, and he made mocktails for all of my kids, and he was walking them through the cocktail process, which maybe it's a bad idea to get your kids drinking mocktails at 7 years old, but they had such a blast, like just being at the counter with you, walking
was a
through,
little
squeezing limes and
curry
everything.
assembly line.
Mhm.
It was great. I do think like bringing your kids into things, and there's balance in everything. It's like there's good and evil in everything you do. So like, it's like, oh, cocktails teaching them young. It's like maybe it's not a bad thing, to have balance. And
We did use the
yeah,
non-alcoholic rum, so that was a
yeah,
good
yeah.
move.
That's
Yeah,
solid. That's
yeah,
solid.
for sure.
It's a great move
Yeah, we did pina coladas tonight with no rum, just
for the kids.
for the kids.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, following in your footsteps.
Nah, you guys are great, and I think it's been really fun to just process this stuff with you and provide some feedback in the early stages, and now to listen to some of these guests is just unreal. So,
Well, before you get off,
yeah,
talk about a little bit about your relationship with your wife and how she's building something and how you and her work together as you're both building things that are not necessarily like together.
yeah. I would say we are still figuring that out. I have an intensity level that is I probably need to check it, and so like sometimes I come through as a little bit blunt, some of the feedback. So I think
I got sugar right here for it.
yeah, we need more sugar in my life. Yeah, I need to recognize that more. But we're so proud of like each other for like pursuing it, and we're both like allowing it to be your thing and my thing, but also like we understand like how much work she's put into some of the nightcap stuff and how much some of the work that I've put into the freshly minted, the interior styling stuff. So like we're acknowledging like that it does like it is like this weird concoction that create something beautiful and something that works and sells. So I think we value each other's wisdom in different ways. But as like we relate, it's like I I need to be a more supportive um, husband to an entrepreneur despite having a day job, having another business, having two kids, one with special needs. So but no matter what, like I don't envision myself as somebody who's not supportive to her vision. So like that's something I need to like work on. Is like there's times when like she's stuck in something and I have to figure it out, that I hadn't traditionally had to figure out. So that's been a fascinating process for us as we kind of build things simultaneously and together, and yet keep them a little bit like that's your thing. That's not my thing. So like if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Even though my opinion would be like, hey, you should probably do this or that. So I think that's really been a discovery process. A lot of like I like in a way it's like a reset. Like we come together, we got to talk about what It's like I felt like you hung me out to dry. You felt like hung you out to dry. Like it's been a lot of like we got to sit down and talk about how this is like. We need to communicate more around it. But it's also been like really fun, and so like how we talk about each other's businesses is really cool. And um, we're two very different people, but also like share just wanting stuff to be successful, wanting stuff to work, and to have fun doing it. So that's kind of where we're at.
Well, keep it up, man. I know it's a lot of work, but I think it'll be cool to see in a year, 2 years, where you guys are at and what this setup is and what the businesses look like.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys. You guys have seen it in the early days. Back in we were meeting on calls in 2017 when I moved to Florida.
Yeah, man.
You guys have seen us, and relationally, it's really important to be on the same page as your wife.
Yeah. Well, and it's no joke doing that in general. But then, as you mentioned, like having a special needs kid, having another child after that, like it's a lot. It's like the family time is so important, and being able to work together on that. And then in the midst of that, going out and working your day job, working on these side hustles that are, getting your pickleball swing in place. But it's like it's a lot to do and a lot to balance. And but you guys are each other's champions, and working through that. And it's I mean we cheers you
To the Rahrigs.
Cheers.
Business Cake is produced by Sound Ops. The music is written by Philip Cusius, and this is hosted by Will and Patrick. If you enjoyed it, please rate us 5 stars wherever you find your podcasts.